All right. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Beyond Seven Figures podcast. This is a really fun episode for me. It's on a very, very popular topic. I actually found our guest because of LinkedIn. He came up several different places. And lo and behold, not only did I find him on LinkedIn, as I started to read his content, followed his podcast, and so forth, I realized this is the guy that I needed to bring to you on the Beyond Seven Figures podcast. Because you see, when it comes to social media, one statistic that I read anyway said that 80% of all B2B leads originate from LinkedIn. In fact, one of the things that we do a lot at Predictable Profits is we build out sales teams. And so when we build sales teams, the difference between an A player and those that are B, C, and so forth, a lot of times one of the little hints is how effective are they using LinkedIn? And you can often tell that those people who are the A players, they use LinkedIn very, very regularly. Why? Because if you're on LinkedIn, you're there to grow your professional career or you're there to grow your business. It's not like Instagram where you're posting a picture of what you ate last night or your kids or something like that. You're not really in the business mind. But when you're on LinkedIn, you're in the business mind. And if you can leverage LinkedIn appropriately, it gives you access to buying committees, it gives you access to decision makers. It allows people to reflect back and say, I see you everywhere. Now, before I introduce my guest, I had a conversation with our board of directors members, and there was a debate as to how effective LinkedIn actually was. So I said, real quick, I picked out one of the women in our group. She's one of the top women in finance. And I said, so real quick, talk to me about your buyer's journey. What happened? Just walk me through your buyer's journey. And so she did this and that. And she goes, then I went to your LinkedIn profile. I go, oh, interesting. You went to my LinkedIn profile. And what did you do? I read a few of your posts. So how many posts? I can remember it was about 6 posts. Oh, you read 6 posts. You know the funny thing about that? You didn't like them. You didn't connect with me. You didn't comment. How was I supposed to know? She said, that's a good point. I don't know. I said, you fall into a category of silent observers. And then I said to the rest of the board of directors members, show of hands, how many other people went to my LinkedIn profile before you decided to join our group? And almost every single one of them raised a hand. I said, but what's interesting about that is very few of you liked, commented, or engaged with me before you purchased. So how was I supposed to know that it worked? It's part of the silent observers. So this is part of the buyer's journey. So in today's show, we're going to talk about how to maximize that buyer's journey. I'm going to really lean into our guests on how to maximize things from an organic standpoint, but also our expert is a master at LinkedIn ads. He's managed over $150 million in LinkedIn ad spend, which includes 5 of LinkedIn's top 10 spending accounts, which is really cool. So he's got the chops to kind of back it up. He's the host of the LinkedIn Ads Show. So if you're into LinkedIn, I do recommend that you check out the LinkedIn Ads Show. And he has a website, b2linked.com. Without further ado, let's bring in the CEO of b2linked.com, AJ Wilcox. Dude, welcome to the show.
Charles, thank you so much. I am blushing after an intro like that. Wow.
You know, I mentioned to you right before we started the show, I've followed a number of different podcasts, and there's very few that I go back and re-listen to over and over again because there's just a lot of people who regurgitate the same information that everybody else is saying. There's not a lot of unique perspective in there that you don't really walk away with some actionable advice and so forth. Yours is different. Every time, every episode that I've listened to, I've said, this is really, really good. I've enjoyed it. My only regret is that I've listened to it on the road and I didn't have a notebook with me, and it would have been nice in some cases to have a notebook. But, look, your perspective and your experience on LinkedIn has been awesome. We do know that the 4 magic words that we can get any prospect to say that has a massive impact in their ability to close is, I see you everywhere.
That's right.
So let's start with the organic side of things, and then let's go to the paid side of things. Are you okay with that?
Of course. Sounds amazing.
Awesome. Let's get rid of the typical BS. Assume that everybody knows, like, you need to have a professional profile and everything else, right? Professional profile, professional header, image, and a bio that speaks to the client's pain points, not just look like a resume. Okay. So let's get rid of the common stuff. Let's go a little bit more advanced. The one thing that people want more than anything, they want engagement. They want their posts to be seen. How do you make that happen?
I would say in the last year, a whole bunch of us, LinkedIn lovers behind the scenes are going, my reach has really decreased. Is everyone else seeing the same thing? And it sure looks like it has. But a couple years ago, I would have said, oh, LinkedIn is the easiest network in the world to go viral on. All you need to do is share something that makes people want to comment, and they flock to it, and you'll end up with this virality. In probably the last year, LinkedIn's changed their algorithm and it's been quite a bit harder, but I actually see really predictable views. Like on my posts, I'm usually going to get somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000 views on each post, regardless of what it
Yep.
is. And if it falls below that, I know it sucked. And, and if it goes above that, I know it was a home run. But I think my very best advice to everyone is like, you won't actually know until you try. So don't be afraid. And actually, not even don't be afraid. Like, start a concerted effort of posting once per week and try different things and see what works and what doesn't. And don't be afraid that something you shared is going to make you look bad. If it sucks, no, LinkedIn's not going to serve it to anyone, and it's not going to make you look bad. So just start sharing stuff, find out what works, try text only, try video, and you're going to get really good at understanding what makes people want to engage.
Now, I've seen a mixture of posts. Some of them are image posts and they get lots of engagement. Some of them are video posts and they got lots of engagement. Some of them don't have any images or video and they got lots of engagement. So, is there any rhyme or reason? Do you have preference to one format or another, or do you have any data supporting either one of those?
For pure engagement, I recommend text only. So no image, no video, just text. And I think because it comes across to the casual user like, oh, this is very, very much grassroots, very organic. This was not created by a marketing department. And they're also the easiest to create. But then we've also found this whole class of like, if anyone looks at probably the last 20 or 30 posts that I've posted personally, I've gone with short videos to test because I want to see, with LinkedIn's new video feed that they've been talking about, I want to see like what it takes to get in there, what the results are. But just a short, like talking head videos, like what we call it, just sharing, here's a tip, a trick, a strategy, an industry update you need to know about. Those cost like, I don't know, we pay $12 a month for Descript to do our video editing. And then you take it with your webcam or your phone, some of the cheapest video to produce, but also some of the highest performing organic content.
Now, you just said something that I want to explore a little bit more. You said the reason why text works is because it doesn't look like it's coming from a marketing department. So, explore that with me a little bit more. So, for our listeners, you said it doesn't look like it's coming from a marketing department. What are the pros and cons? Like, in other words, how do I create a post that doesn't look like it's coming from a marketing department, and why is that important?
Yeah, well, this came from when we tell someone to, like one of our clients, for instance, to come up with post content. What we find is usually they're going to stick like their company logo in the corner, and their designer has to get involved, and branding has to get involved and make sure that it looks perfect. It fits branding guidelines and all that. And then we would post these and we would just get really lackluster results. And then we'd say, okay, can we try? Let's get rid of the logo. Let's make it look a little less professional, a little less refined. Make it look like you took a picture and you slapped a headline on it that anyone can do, and let's see. And we noticed those posts actually did better, all else held equal. And so to me, when I see a post that I can tell that a marketing department got involved, I go, it's an ad, and I keep going. But if it looks like it's a human trying their very best to share their very best information, then I'm like, okay, they put effort into this. Let's see. That's what I think of a single image kind of post that doesn't look
Unless you're
perfect.
posting from your business account, right? Because if you're posting from your business account, it's almost expected to look branded, right?
I think so. And we've even seen the same thing where if you post from the brand and it looks a little more grassroots, a little less marketing-y, then those tend to perform and stand out as well. But everything we've talked about, I should make this distinction. I'm thinking about it from what you share from your personal profile, because if you share the same thing from your personal profile as from your company's page, even if you had the same number of followers on both, you would get 10 times the engagement, 10 times the impressions from you personally. So it's super important. leverage your personal profile.
I'm glad that you said that, because one of the things that we found with a number of the different agencies that we work with is that when a lot of people would just turn around and go, I'll run ad dollars and I'm only going to do it to my business account. And so what we told them is that we found is if you were to use your personal account, run the exact same content on your personal and your business, though we do recommend a slight twist, right, in the content.
Yeah.
Instead of getting a 1 + 1 = 2 result, what ends up happening is you get a 1.33 plus 1.33, equals whatever, 2.66 result. Everything improves that much better for a number of different reasons. But the number of leads that you actually get you'll get more leads on your personal account, and you're going to get them at a lower cost per lead on your personal account than you will on the business account. And so it's really important to actually leverage both, not one or the other, leverage both.
Absolutely.
And, part of what we found to be super effective is most people aren't even aware that you can run thought leadership ads with your personal brand.
Yes.
LinkedIn doesn't make it easy. It's not like Instagram or Facebook where it's like boost post. You can't do that with LinkedIn for your personal page.
Yeah. And the results are crazy. Like if you boost a company page post and your personal post saying the same thing, the personal post is going to get, it's probably going to be a third the cost for similar performance and probably going to perform better. Like it's like as if LinkedIn came to you and said, hey, if you run this, we'll only charge you a third as much. It's incredible. And it's new. Like you said, they made it hard to actually do. Like you actually have to be really thoughtful about how to turn something into a thought leader ad. But when you do, the results are incredible and you want to keep doing it.
Yeah. So what do you consider a good CTR, click-through rate, for a LinkedIn ad?
If we're talking about clicks to the link that a post is linking to, it's a little less than 0.5%. It's like 0.45%.
Yeah. When we're talking LinkedIn thought leadership ads, what do you notice that number then turning into?
We are seeing thought leader ads getting in between 12 and 16% click through rate. So we're talking orders of magnitude more.
I want our listeners to think about that for a minute. A good CTR, according to AJ, 0.45%. Like, that's good. When you run these thought leadership ads, instead of 0.45%, you're seeing them as high as, what'd you say, 12, 15%?
Yeah.
The lowest in my account right now for thought leadership ads, I think it's 7.84%.
Yes.
But I mean, think about that. That's crazy, right? It's amazing. So, what makes a good thought leadership ad? So, if you're going to break down the mechanics of a thought leadership ad, so what makes a good thought leadership ad from the personal brand?
I think what makes a good thought leadership ad is exactly what makes a good organic post. You want to share something that is of extreme value or interesting, educational. I think it generally starts with a hook of some kind that's interesting. You provide real value, not just dangle a carrot of like, hey, here's a little bit, and I'm going to teach you more if you fill out the form or buy from me. Like, no, you spill it all. You give the full value of the post and then ask for some sort of engagement. At the end, it's like, do you agree? What's been your experience with this topic? What would you have done in my position? Like ask some kind of a question that makes people want to comment and engage.
Now, there's two types of CTAs, right? There's one type of CTA, which is click on this link and go to this page, right? And there's the other type of CTA, which is comment, keyword, whatever that might be, and I'll send you the resource. Where do you stand on either one?
I love it. So I've done a ton on LinkedIn organically, not because we offer any sort of services there. It's a love of mine. And I've tested about everything. Last summer, we came out with a guide and it was the advanced LinkedIn advertisers guide. It has some of my top strategies. And I realized if I put it out there with an ad or a post that just said, click here, go to my page, download it, I was going to get like at most a 10% conversion rate. I would probably get at most maybe 20 or 30 leads from my organic audience. And my team and I got together and we said, okay, what if we do what we call comment gating? What if we said, all you have to do to get this is comment below, comment something, we'll send you the guide for free. What we get, we know who it is who commented. So we have their identity. We may not have their email address. That's okay. We also said they have to be connected to me so I can send them a message. So now I've grown my followers and connections with people who care about LinkedIn ads because they wanted the advanced guide. And then on the back end, we ended up with, I want to say it was something like 200 people, maybe more, who requested the guide. And that could not have gotten out the same way if we chose to distribute it a different way. So I love comment gating, but be aware if you do it, set some time aside because you're going to have to be like monitoring the post, responding to people constantly until LinkedIn stops showing that thing. But once LinkedIn stops, then you can turn on ads, promote it, through LinkedIn ads and get even more of these, signups from your ideal target audience.
Yeah, totally dig that. That's awesome. And, one thing I did find actually to get even more engagement is any photo that where I'm in, it could have nothing to do with the post. It's just a picture of me doing something. That usually does better than anything else. Or I would say that usually does better. The only thing that beats it is if it's a picture of me with my family. Then
Oh,
that usually beats anything of just me solo.
I think you're so right.
Okay, so you can relate to that?
Yeah, and I'm doing a lot of video because I feel really comfortable like sharing tips and tricks. I have a really hard time just with my own ego of posting with pictures of myself with selfies, but I've heard it over and over and over that yes, people do want to engage with your posts that are pictures of yourself. So I'm going to try it out in a way that I don't feel like sleazy about.
Yeah, it's funny. There's been times when I'm like, I write a post, I'm like, I got to do something, so I don't have a photo, a recent one, so I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna take a selfie of me sitting in my chair, and it's like,
Yeah,
but that works,
it
that's
works.
great. So it's like, okay, whatever. Now, a big thing that people talk about are these growth pods, right? So
Yeah.
engagement pods. Would you recommend somebody getting involved in engagement pods, staying away from it? What's your feeling on that?
I have two different kinds of pods in mind. So I'll define them. One pod I think is very helpful. It's a group of people who all love and want to support each other. So these could be like friends from a previous company or just other enthusiasts of social media.
Yeah,
And you share with each other what you're doing, what's working, what's not, and they help your posts. When they see it, you help support them.
yep,
Then there's one that's more of an automated kind of approach, and that's anyone and everyone hop in. Let's turn on tools to auto like and auto comment with AI. And those kinds of pods are, I think they put you at risk. There are, first of all, if LinkedIn figures out about it, they're going to devalue every post that you ever do from here on out, which you don't want. They're going to find the people you're connected to, devalue them. It's not great. And others will call you out. I forget his name, but there's specifically a guy who it's his mission to call out people who are using pods for growth. I don't know that I would ever go that far of like calling it cheating to use a pod like that, but he feels very strongly and he's loud and he'll call you out. So I would say use it very organically, very much like with your close friends who really want to support each other, and you can't go wrong.
and I've also heard, I don't have the data to back this up, but I've also heard that if you're going to do a pod, that you want to make sure that you are also engaging with people outside of the pod in the news feed and all that other fun stuff, which just to show some diversity.
Yes. And that's good practice, I think, no matter what. Because when you've interacted with someone's post, let's say 2 or 3 times, they keep seeing that you've liked their post or you've commented, it feels really good to them. And they want to thank you. So that next time one of your posts comes up, they're going to return the favor. And your posts do so much better when people are liking and commenting. So spread the love, kind of prime the pump ahead of time, and then the value is going to keep coming back.
And one thing that I'll also add too is, I find that, when somebody connects with you, that, you generally get favor inside of their feed for a short period of time. If somebody comments on your stuff, you get favor in their feed. I don't know if it applies if they reply to your comment in their feed, if you still get favor. I don't know. But I know, you mentioned earlier, if people want to get started once per week, totally get that. I completely are in agreement with you. But if you want to really turn this into a sales engine, like Monday through Friday minimum, like put out content, because for all those favors that you're getting, LinkedIn's going, I'm going to favor your feed. You'll lose that opportunity if you're not contenting. If you're creating content as time goes by, you'll miss that.
It's true. And what I don't want people to feel like is if I come on and say, oh, yeah, you'll rule LinkedIn, all you have to do is dedicate your whole life to it. Then people go, oh, I have enough of my own duties and I'm trying to step away from my company anyway, like trying to let my team take more. That's really scary. But if I can say something like, just, if LinkedIn's scary to you, just set aside 15 minutes per day to connecting to people that you already know to be growing your network, reply to the messages that you get,
Yep.
post something once a week, and just see all it is 15 minutes a day. From that, if you get a month into that, I guarantee you're going to be excited the next time you go into LinkedIn, and you're going to want to spend more than 15 minutes, and you're seeing the results to your business. So don't feel like you have to bite off more than you can chew. Start small, but yeah, that's eventually where I want to see you get to, where you're like, wow, my LinkedIn profile is responsible for 50% of my business. That's incredible.
Got it. Okay, so now let's talk into paid traffic, right? So this is where, I mean, you're working with some of the largest LinkedIn accounts on paid traffic. Walk us through the strategy for paid, because, you talked about this in one of your podcasts. A lot of people get turned off by paid traffic on LinkedIn because they look at the cost per lead, and rumor on the street is, well, LinkedIn advertising is far more expensive than everywhere else. So there's nuances within that. So just kind of
Yeah.
enlighten us all.
Yeah. So here's the beauty of LinkedIn ads. We have this targeting that you just can't get on any other network. LinkedIn has a monopoly on understanding who everyone is professionally. And what that means is us as advertisers, we can target by someone's job title, their level of seniority, the department they work in, skills on their profile, groups they've joined. And like, there's a lot like that's what I feel like defines who someone is professionally. But then you have this whole other side of like, what size of company, what industry do they work in? We can target by specific company names. We have been able to ever since the platform came out in 2008. And so you can get so specific. There just is no other platform that lets you target the same way and make sure that every ad impression that you get is from your ideal target audience. But of course, on the flip side is, yeah, we pay a premium for that level of targeting. The average cost per click on LinkedIn, if you're targeting North America, is like $10 to $16. That's $10 to $16 per click. Some people are paying more. Usually it's because they're not bidding efficiently. But our clients are averaging somewhere between about $7 to $8 per click right now. So it's totally possible to get it for cheaper. But here's what we're talking about is this network where the targeting is amazing, but you pay a premium for it. And the traffic acts like a top of the funnel traffic, where most advertisers want to start showing ads that say like, hey, you look like a good fit for me. Let's hop on a phone call. But audiences aren't ready for that yet. They're not a cold audience who's never heard of you before. They're not ready to talk to your sales team. So we have to nurture them, treat them really well, educate them, work them down a funnel before they're finally willing to hop on a call with us. So happy to talk through that strategy, but that's
Okay, so top of funnel, right? This is people that are totally cold. So what are we looking at for a strategy top of funnel?
my favorite ads to run here are those thought leader ads. Where you're talking about the lowest performing one is getting 7% click-through rates. If you create a retargeting audience on that, you're basically saying 6% or 7% to, let's say, 12% of the audience that I show this to, they're going to end up engaging in some way with this ad, and they're going to end up in a retargeting audience. And then I'm going to show them something else. So these thought leader ads are so effective at creating a retargeting audience of people have had at least one meaningful interaction with your brand. So love that. If you can't use thought leader ads coming from an individual, use video ads coming from the company. And you can set a retargeting audience that says anyone who watches at least 50% of one of my video ads or 25% or whatever, graduate them to the second stage of the funnel. Now you've got a 2-stage funnel.
On the thought leader ads, so you can actually create a retargeting audience based on anybody that has engaged, whether it's a click, comment, or post.
Yep, exactly.
Click, comment, or like is what I meant to say. And then obviously, or, it's obvious to me, but maybe not to our listeners, percentage of video viewed if you were to run the thought leadership ads on video views.
Yeah. Or even just straight video ads. We know video thought leader ads perform better, but If you don't have someone in the organization willing to post something organically so you can sponsor it, then sure, just video ads and say, anyone who watches a certain percentage, they've now been exposed. Let's show them something new.
And so when we're talking top of funnel, a lot of times the type of content that works best, these people generally aren't even aware that they have a problem, right? So just not aware they have a problem. So it's what I find, and you please tell me if you find differently. So if we look at my audience at predictable profits, right? A lot of times people don't realize they have a problem if they're growing, but if they built their business predominantly through hard work, word of mouth, and referrals, and we create some sort of content that is a little controversial to their common belief, that they're like, wait a minute, this is what I'm doing, what's wrong with this, and they start to read it or they start to watch it, then all of a sudden that may open their mind to going, I didn't think I have a problem, but now I think I do have a problem. So then what's next?
Yeah, so you can put it into all kinds of different, ideas. I like this, like they're not even problem aware yet. So you're going to make them problem aware, and then you're going to make them product aware. Like you can walk them through. It's a great strategy. You can think from the perspective of like, okay, they're having some kind of an issue, call out that pain point, press on it, and then give them some kind of value to help them fix the problem, and then call out another problem, fix that one, and then finally it's hey, we fixed enough of your problems, like we should probably talk. Think of it however you want, but we have this ability to walk people down these thoughts because we have amazing retargeting for both thought leader ads and video ads.
So then that's, level one, top of funnel. We're looking at thought leader ads with either content or video views. And then what is level two for you?
So I know that level 3 is where we want to get people to. We know that's where they're going to convert at 5 times the rate as they would at second stage.
Yep.
So oftentimes the name of the game for me is, okay, we created a very efficient top of funnel that's going to create a middle of funnel quickly.
Yep.
Now I want to take that middle of funnel and as efficiently as possible, turn those into bottom of funnel. So I might do more of these thought leader ads. I might do more video. And at this point, you can start using longer videos. Top of funnel, it might be like a 20 to 40 second kind of, here's a quick value. At middle of funnel, then I start going more like 30 second to 60 second, maybe even longer. I might share with someone the concept of, hey, join something that's subscribable. So if it's, subscribe to the podcast or subscribe to us on YouTube, join our webinar series, things like that, where that you're going to buy them once and then they're going to have repeat exposures with your brand. Yeah. Those are pretty incredible. And that's your stage 2, that is creating then your audience of anyone who interacts with those to now be a stage 3.
And let's stick on stage 2 for a second. So you talk about subscribe, join, sign up. Length of video, you said 30 to 60 second on stage 2, not longer on stage 2. So then stage 1 would be how long? If
I try to stick to like 20 to 40 seconds. If someone's never heard of you before, like it's just hey, here's a little tease. And then you kind of feel like you've earned their time, earned their attention, and they'll stick around a little bit longer next time.
So 20 to 40 seconds on step 1, step 2, then you're looking at 30 to 60 seconds, right?
Yep. And you can go a little longer. You could go 70 or 80 seconds sometimes too. But the goal of these, you want as much consumption as possible because you want them to get to know, like, and trust you as fast as possible. And in order to do that, you're not giving them a sales pitch. You are giving them pure value, educational hit, teaching them something. And that is going to create that relationship way faster than you could ever get from them reading your text posts.
One of the things that we've been teaching since 2020 is that consumption drives conversion. So before we get to step 3, step 1, what KPIs are you tracking on?
My goal is to get people to stage 2. So stage 1 is very much like click-through rate. If I can see a post, let's say I have 3 or 4 posts, they range between a 7% click-through rate to a 14%. I'm going to gauge those by how high their click-through rate is. And I also want to pay attention to how low their cost per click is, because oftentimes you'll get your cost per click, if it's a really good post, for less than $1. And like I shared, most people are paying $10 to $16 per click. And if you're paying less than $1 and it's more engaging, you're winning the game.
Yeah, I get that. So we're looking at CTR, CPC, and probably CPV, right? Cost per view, based on,
yes.
And then when we look at number two, it would be cost per lead, right? Because now we're looking for leads, right? We're looking for signups and join this and that. Is that a fair statement?
Usually I try not to put a form in front of them. Sometimes the client will say, we need our content gated. And so they will put forms in front. But anytime I get a chance, I'm going to say, don't put a form in front of them at stage 2 unless you absolutely have to. People expect a form if they're going to hop on a webinar. They have to give you an email address so that you can send out the invite. But things like subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast, you don't know if they actually do that because there's no mechanism for reporting a conversion from there. But what you're doing is inviting them to hear more of what you have to say. But also more of these thought leader ads, more of these video ads, where you can say a click on one of these or watching at least 50% of one of these then graduates them to the next stage. So lots of freedom in what you offer and how.
Got it. So then on stage two, so even though you're talking subscribe, join, or sign up, you're not actually taking them to an outside page. If you're saying subscribe to our podcast, you're just hoping that they go out and find your podcast on iTunes or whatnot and then subscribe on their own.
Yeah, you can send them to the page on your website that has all the little, whatever your podcast listening player of choice is. Here's an easy link. You can send them to your YouTube channel. It's not a problem to send traffic off platform, but it's more about making sure that whatever you're asking, you're providing a lot of value and asking very little in return because you're trying to get them to know, like, and trust you. And the very fastest way to do that is get someone to really appreciate what you've taught them for free with no expectation of something in return.
Yeah, I totally get that. That makes sense. Or comment, right? Could you ask them to comment if they want a resource and, you continue the chain?
I think that's totally appropriate, both top and middle of funnel.
And then now stage 3, now we're giving them forms. Is that right?
At this point, we have earned their attention. We've earned it through making sure that they've had at least 2 major positive touches with our brand. And this is where we find that if we give them an offer of talk to someone, sign up for a demo, get a free consultation, try a free trial, your conversion rate here is 5 times higher than it would have been in stage 2. This is great. I love using a combination of single image lead form ads here. So you put a lead form in front of them that's really easy to fill out that says, let's hop on a call, give them your Calendly link or whatever. And I also love sending them what's called a conversation ad at this stage. These are an ad that you pay per person that you send it to. So it's not paying per click like you can with all the other ads. Because they're a warmer audience at this point. They're going to open those and be more willing to click on them than any other audience. And you can actually get costs per click, costs per lead quite low there. So I think running both of those ad formats together to everyone who made it to the bottom of your funnel, and this is your lead generator. This is the machine that now kicks out leads while you sleep.
That's brilliant. And so you recommend, this is the same across the board for other platforms too, but you would recommend if you want the lowest cost per lead, don't take them off the platform, use the lead ads in order to, is that correct?
It's a really good question and one that I think has a little bit more nuance. So if you use LinkedIn's lead forms, same as Facebook, same as Google's, it's going to pop up immediately. It's going to pre-fill it with everything the platform knows about them, making it so easy. All they have to do is just maybe type in their work email address and hit submit. And so you end up with conversion rates that are like 3 to 5 times higher than if you send them to a page on your website.
Yeah.
Then what I hear from sales teams is, okay, someone filled out the form. I reached out to them and I hear crickets. They're not responding.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like you have 2 conversions. You have to get them to give you their information, and then you have to try to get a percentage of those to book a meeting with you. And usually if they do, they're going to show up. Alternatively, what I'm actually having more success with is rather than using LinkedIn's lead gen forms, send them to a landing page on your website that has the calendar booking built right into it. So they fill out the form, they book the calendar all as part of the same interaction. Then you're asking for only 1 conversion. It won't convert as high as the lead gen form will, but if you're actually tracking to what you should be tracking, which is a cost per meeting that showed up, that can actually be less expensive and more efficient.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but With LinkedIn lead ads, though, the confirmation page, you can actually redirect them to your own custom, right? So
You
that
can. Yeah.
so you could get the lead, but then the custom redirect could take them to the page on your website with your calendar link, right?
Yes. But not everyone clicks on the link. And in fact, what I'm finding is it's not even a high percentage of people. Once they fill out the form, they go, okay, I'm done. And then they leave without thinking to click the link. And so usually we send them an email too. We have whatever the thank you page link is. We hope some percentage click that. And if they missed it, we send them an email that says, here, book a meeting with us. Here it is. But again, sometimes we find that people delay long enough, they cool off, they move on to a different project, and you kind of lose them at that point, which is okay. You can keep advertising to them and have another shot at them. But I like the site experience where you can make sure that they only have to convert once and it's going to turn into an appointment.
Got it. Let's kind of talk agencies for a second, right? What would you say would be a good cost per call using this strategy that you're sharing? What range would you say would be considered like you want to be within here? That's when you know you're doing good.
Yeah. If you have anything less than like $500 a call, I think you're doing okay. It's in the range of like, if you're paying 500 to 1,000 or maybe even more per call, I go, oh, there's something inefficient there. But you also realize that you've run people through two stages of ads where you weren't asking for anything up to that point. So, for your third stage campaigns to be getting sometimes $80 a call, 120 per call, whatever that is, you also have to factor in like, oh, I also brought them in through other ads, early on. So it's not quite as clean. And plus the top two stages, you might work someone through that three-stage funnel for weeks or maybe even months before you get something out the bottom. Keep that in mind. This is like, maybe after you've been advertising for 6 months and you've built a really solid bottom of funnel, that's when you're going to be kicking these out.
So, it's really important for our listeners to make sure you understand, you know, your lifetime customer value, but even, go deeper, what I like to call your CPV, your client profit value. So it's one thing to say your lifetime customer value, but if your client is worth, say, 30 grand, but you only have a 10% margin, then really you only have $3,000 to work with. Now, hopefully you guys have a hell of a lot more than a 10% margin, right? But then you look at it like Warren Buffett would look at it. If it costs you, well, say, if it's $500 for a call, you should have a minimum of a 33% conversion rate, anywhere from 28 to 33% conversion rate minimum on a sale, right? So because you're preheating them, you're warming them up, the whole deal, so they're likely going to convert better. So that means you're really paying $1,500 to make one sale. But if you're paying $1,500 to make one sale, but your client you put in your cash in your pocket, say 10 grand, I'm just making, or let's say 15 grand, just to make it easy numbers. That's a 10 times return. Warren Buffett would be doing backflips because he's only getting 27% on average, right? So that's awesome. So we have to look at it like that. And so for a small business owner that then says, okay, AJ, I'm bought into this. I think this is a smart idea. I'm willing to invest and make this work. What is a test budget that you would recommend for somebody to invest in LinkedIn?
I might differ from what others might say on the topic. I suggest $5,000 a month for your starting budget. There is an element where I go, but if you have more, go ahead. Like the more you spend, the more data you're going to get and the faster you're going to be able to move. But I also see that if someone jumps in with a high budget, a lot of times LinkedIn will take advantage of them. And especially if you have something that's inefficient or you've made some mistake somewhere, you're spending money inefficiently a lot quicker. So I would say start at around 5K. I wouldn't suggest less, but if you do start with less, just be patient. Give yourself longer to actually evaluate results. And then maybe in that 5 to 10K range, when things start to really take off and you can attribute the success, that's when you scale it up and find the magic there.
Like you, I have the benefit of working with some really, really smart people, and it's great when I can learn from my clients as well. And, some of what we've heard is that while you can drive a lot of conversation on LinkedIn, the retargeting platform for LinkedIn would be X right now is, a great retargeting platform. So you can actually really increase that consumption a heck of a lot faster and shorten the sales cycle, by taking them to X, retarget on YouTube. Even Meta to some extent is good, but I've only found anything on Meta not real good in terms of like top of funnel is just retargeting type stuff is much better for Meta. GDN, Google Display Network, all that's also great. So off LinkedIn, what are you finding to work?
Yeah, very much what you just shared. For our clients, we're only running LinkedIn ads for them. And that's a little bit limiting because we know that there are so many strategies that we can pull in the traffic from X, the traffic from Meta, from Google in really efficient ways. So one would be just the straight retargeting, like you mentioned, where, hey, I'm sending traffic to my website from LinkedIn. I know the traffic's good. Let me retarget them at really low costs, stay top of mind, stay in front of them everywhere they go, then just retargeting that traffic elsewhere. And then we also have the opposite. Let's say you are advertising on Google, you're advertising on Meta. We can set up a retargeting audience inside of LinkedIn that says anyone who comes from these channels, put them into a separate audience and retarget them the same way. And then you get what I call the big digital hug, where like the magic words you talked about with like, I'm seeing you everywhere. And it doesn't take that much to put together. It's not expensive to keep it running because those other platforms, just retargeting is quite cheap, but you get that big digital hug.
And there's so many different ways in which you can maximize the work that you do on LinkedIn. And I know we're pushing up against a clock, so this would be my little teaser there. But I just want people to understand, like, there's so many ways. One of the ways that we can look at it is we have a tool that we install on our website so that if somebody's gone, oh, this looks interesting, and they go to the website, it immediately identifies the visitor on the website, their LinkedIn profile and everything. So it allows us the opportunity to then proactively reach out. So even while they may be in a consideration phase, might not have filled out a form on the website, boom, we can go ahead and, we've got that opportunity. And that can help really reduce the cost per conversion. Some of the other ways that we do this, we actually just held a session for board of directors members today where we revealed a framework for being able to sell through the LinkedIn DMs. And so, anytime somebody is either they comment on your post, they like a post, they visit your profile, they send you a connection request, any of that, there's a whole framework where you don't have to wait for them to turn around and fill out the form. You can start the conversation ahead of time. So there's a lot of great ways when you think out of the box that you can just like maximize this. Like there's one of the things that always drives me nuts is when people say, "Oh, I just don't have enough leads or I don't have enough opportunity." When they know where to look for it, they have more opportunities in front of them than they have time in the day to deal with it. So it's just about, okay, where do I look? And they're always kind of hiding under a rock, but they're there.
Yeah, totally. To that point, we used a platform. I won't share who they are, but what they did is they would identify who the people were who came to the website, and they would automatically shoot them an email that was like get a free audit or, free evaluation or something like that. And we found very little success with that. And I was scratching my head going, what was the problem? Because if they came to the website, they were showing some sort of intent. Why offering them something? Why would that not grab them? Right now we're using rb2b.com for personal identification. I stopped treating them like they were bottom of funnel. I treat them as they're more top or maybe even middle. And you're still in this attitude of give value, give value. You're interacting with them on LinkedIn. You're following them, sending connection requests, giving them value. And then you have this opportunity for them once they get familiar with your brand to then become more what I would call stage 3. So anyway, just adding to your strategy, like, yes, I think that's brilliant.
Delayed gratification is a competitive advantage that I don't think enough people, realize. If I went in for my wife for a kiss too soon, if I went in and tried to give her a kiss too soon and we just met, what would happen is she'd be like, "Hey, back off, buddy," and she'd push me away. Now the problem is we just broke rapport and trust. Now it doesn't mean that she's going to break up with me, but what it means is it's going to take me a lot longer to earn her trust to get the kiss the next time, I try to move in. Sales is the same thing. You have to really time that appropriately. I got 2 questions. Number 1, my favorite question for our guests. This is a Beyond 7 Figures podcast. What would you say your biggest, best tip for our listeners who want to take their company beyond 7 figures would be?
Get comfortable sharing what you know on video. It's one of those skills that is really difficult to get yourself to do, but it pays dividends, both organically and paid across all channels video where you are useful and helpful is just slaying it. And I don't think it's going to stop.
Amazing. Love that. Then the other question, you mentioned you had some sort of guide of your best practices and whatnot. Is that still available? And if so, where can our listeners get it?
It is, absolutely. I have one guide it's the startup checklist. Like if you're going to start advertising on LinkedIn, it's everything I wish I would have known starting.
Yep.
And then the other one is the advanced guide. I'll share both URLs with you and invite anyone who wants to learn more about LinkedIn ads. Go check them out. I'm really proud of them.
Excellent. And so your website is b2linked.com, right?
Correct.
b2linked.com. I'll tell you, if you liked this podcast and you want to learn more about other, LinkedIn strategies, tips, and whatnot, I'm an avid listener of the LinkedIn ads show that AJ has put together. I would really recommend that you also check that out because it's I don't recommend too many podcasts, but his podcast it's one that I very, very much enjoy. It's a great one. You do good work, my friend.
Oh, thank you so much, Charles. That means so much coming from you.
All right. Well, we covered a lot here today. This is going to be one of those episodes that I'm certain there's going to be several people that are going to be listening to this 2, 3, maybe even 4 times. So we did really cover a lot. Everything from organic to paid, the different elements of paid, top, middle, bottom funnel, the whole deal, how the metrics to track, thought leadership ads, and so forth, and the reason and the psychology behind why we do it. So really, really, this could be bundled into a course and we could sell this podcast. There was so much value in there. So AJ, I want to thank you very much for being just so giving with your time and your advice. This is awesome. And for our listeners that want additional tips, strategies, and information to grow their company faster, more predictably and less dependent on them, check us out at predictableprofits.com. Again, that's predictableprofits.com. This is Charles Gaudet with my new friend AJ Wilcox, and I will see you in another episode.